Eden, let's begin. So heads up, we're just saying to Aaron now, this Maamer, if we had to pick a Maamer, that you're going to learn for a year for your life and no other, this would be on the list. This would make it on the list. It's so Yesodisdik. We're talking about the basic avodas of mind, heart, Kabbalah's oil. There's so much here in his bonus for davening. Pasha Rebbe teaches Shema Yisrael on a level that's not common. The whole psukkah is not the whole psukkah de Zimra. That section just leading before Yishtabach. Atashem levadecha, the choice of Avraham, etzas levavenem lefanecha. How that's his bonus and achana for Shema. And the whole avodah with Amlek, which is very hard hitting, which we're going to get to in a moment. So just give an overview of, not overview, but just, so that's what we're talking about. We're talking basically about two avodas. The first parsha of Kriya Shema is the avodah of his bonus that engages the mind. And that itself is das tachten, and then first das elyon. First, we have to have an appreciation of what we, as human beings here in this world, can appreciate and come to recognize about the emes. And then there's das elyon. Das elyon Torah reveals the objective truth mitzad l'mayla. And then we learned that this is not simply our perspective and the Reishis perspective, but in the likus itself, these two perspectives exist legitimately because of soiviv and mamala, as explained without going to the details now. Soiviv engenders bittul b'mitzias, and Malak Alman says you are a mitzias. Malak Alman is the Eibishter, is the great artist. And Soiviv is the creator, Yesh Ma'ayin, which is beyond the capacity of the artist. The artist takes that which exists and creatively creates beautiful art. The Malak Alman is akin to Hashem as the artist, but the actual creator, Yesh Ma'ayin, that's Soiviv Kalalman. And in the face of the actual creation, something from nothing, we're totally bottled by mitzias, it's totally beyond our ken, and were we to experience it, it would dissolve our sense of independence completely. And Malak Almin legitimizes our existence. Malak Almin is the Eibishter manifested with a highly defined structure and spheres and description of which we are a product. So it legitimizes us. On the contrary, Adarabah. It's not just a legitimization as if to say we're finding a loophole for justification. No. What's the Adarabah? A Yid is supposed to look at water and at fire and at all of the components of the world and see the properties of likus, of chesed and gevura that are responsible for the nature. That's the whole beauty, for the nature of nature. I told you the story of Rabbi. When I was in Texas, where was I? A number of years ago, not in Houston. I went to Dallas, to Dabrowski, Mendel Dabrowski. So his father, Yeshua Dabrowski, he's still alive, I don't think so. And he was a good friend of Rabbi. In fact, Yeshua Dabrowski wrote the first volumes of Likutei Sichos. He was a big writer. In the Allgemeine Journal, he had a tremendous pen. Maybe he wrote once an article describing it at Peretz Mochkin after he passed away, and his Fabrengens. Whoa, he brought it to life. Anyway, so he remembers as a kid, Mendel, they were close friends. Rabbi has no children. One Chol Hamoed Pesach, they went to the zoo. They said Rabbi and the Dabrowski family. Mendel's older brother, by the way, didn't anybody even knew him? Lipa Dabrowski, Shlich in Vancouver. He died of a heart attack suddenly a few years ago. He was from the Bnei Aliyah. Shlich in Australia as a bocher, and from the extraordinary young man. Akaponim, so they went to the zoo, and he remembers how his father, Rabbi, at the zoo. So what they're looking at the animals, and they're seeing in the animals the various tchunas and properties, the Lamaila, Pnei Sher, Pnei Aryeh, Pnei Nesher, discussing the properties of the animal and how this was in the conversation, how this is a reflection of these properties, the Sfiras Lamaila. So that's how you're supposed to look at the world. That's legitimate. There is a world, there's an ox, there's a shor, there's me, there's you. And where do these properties come from? That's all a reflection of the Sfiras, the Maila, etc. That's Mitzad Malak Kalalmin, Mitzad Seva Kalalmin, Yesh Ma'ayin, something out of nothing, facing that's completely beyond our ken. Bottle b'mitzias. So it's Das Elyon, Das Tachtim. We had tremendous hisboneness in the words of Tefillah. Now, what was the point? And that's all reflected in the opening words of Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, pause Hashem Echad. Hashem Elokeinu, Malak Kalalmin, Hashem Echad, Seva Kalalmin. And that leads to it's inspirational. This is via Hafta. This is inspiration, and everybody needs to be inspired. It's the first parsha of the Kriya Shema. It's inspiration to inspire the heart. You got a heart. The heart wants to feel. The mind wants to understand. So fill it. Mala means to fill. We have to fill our minds and hearts with teichen, with the likus, with understanding, with the gishmak, chassidus, nigla. And what is that? That has the effect of, it says in the Maamer, of transforming the 7 nations. What are the 7 nations? This is all the 7 midas in Klippa. So these emotions are we're just seeking love. I want love. I want to know what love is, right? I told you the story of the Bocher. I want to know what love is. Anyway. So there's a greater love, a greater geschmack than Yiddishkeit. Greater depth and chassidus than the beauty of Gemara, family life, mikveh. It's beautiful, and that channels those emotions. You want fulfillment. You want to feel. This is feeling. All the other emotional experiences are transient at best and leave you empty because they're indulgent and they end destructive. An emotion that serves, that fills, that contributes. It's fulfilling. That's all the avodah of Parsha Rishona, but then he said to fight Amalek, it's a whole different avodah. Amalek is the irrational resistance, not saying I want to feel. Show me what love is. That's what Amalek is saying. He said, I know what it is. I'm not interested. I don't. Get me out of here. And the more inspiring, the more he resists. The more inspiring the moment is, well, when did Amalek attack? You think you'd attack at a weak moment, when the inspiration is low. Then get there and say, yeah, and throw doubts in cold water and be cynical. No, when does Amalek attack? He attacks it to hide. The world is silent in awe. 10 plagues, Jews march triumphantly out of Mitzrayim. That's it. He cannot take it. It's the inspiration that he can't take. If you're not inspired, they'll leave you alone. It's fine. That's okay. But inspired and getting excited about this, cannot take it. This is why the second parsha follows after the first. Because the Yid holds by some level of Shema and V'yahavta, B'chol Levavcha, B'chol Nafsha, B'chol Meita, then comes along, as you just learned in the Maamer, when did Chet Egel come? Dafka after Matan Torah. They saw and heard everything, and then just on a whim, out. Avodah Zarah. So this is that. So what's the avodah to tackle Amalek? So this is the avodah of David, not Shaul. Shaul is Recheves Hanor, is the first king. You have to begin that way. It's got to start with inspiration. You can't demand of yourself Kabbalah and verse Ruven. First, you got to appeal to the mind and heart, and then the avodah of Kabbalah. Because only afterwards does Amalek really kick in. It doesn't stop before you're inspired. You're not inspired. You're boring. You're not interested in you. So then starts the whole avodah. So now we're in the middle of, as the Rebbe, level by level. So where are we up to now? Should base, or did we not? Did we finish Vainyan? No, we didn't. We said before. Okay, we're now, friends. Here's Yud Aleph. We said like this. The more, when it comes to Klippa, so the higher the Klippa, the coarser it is. And the lower, the more refined. What he means by higher and lower, let's get this clear. Higher means like less Klippa. The less the clipper, the more coarse. It's a paradox. You hear this? The less clipper, the less it conceals, the more coarse. The more it conceals, the more it's subtle. Now he's going to spell it out now. And if a subtle clipper takes a much longer time to battle, because it's not obvious, that's an obvious battle. It's subtle and what's what I'm looking for? Subtle and help me here. Subtle and insidious and cunning and calculating. Lo pashut. Which is that? The lower clipper. Further down you go, the more concealed, the more refined, the more less obvious, the more subtle. So he says, now I can explain that. The matter is as follows. Because Amalek has so many levels. It's also just occurs to me now that Amalek Purim masks. There's all kinds. It's not just one thing. Pull off one mask, Amalek. That is not the mask waiting. You rip off that one. There's another one. Another battle. Paray is paray. Finished. It's pretty clear. Amalek is layers and layers and layers. So with respect to Amalek, so the simple lowest level of Amalek is he knows who God is and he deliberately opposes and rebels. So if it's outright rebellion, no. And avoid to that's what that is telling us here, to neutralize this open opposition that's blatantly opposed. So it doesn't take so much time because it's clear who the enemy is, and Kabbalah Sale, just buckle down and do it. Finished. That's the response. Because when we talk about literal rebellion, you can't delude yourself that he's wrong. This is wrong. You know what I'm doing is wrong. But you don't want. Okay, so you know it's wrong, so you can battle it head on, and with Kabbalah you said it right. When the battle is clear, that what's the expression? The lines are drawn, and it's very clear. So a person knows what he's up against, and he can it's identifiable, and we can win. Who we're doing about? We're dealing about Amalek, who knows? Elamai, but what? He just outright no, that's all he says. I'm out, leave me alone. Yeshna inyan the Reishis Goyim Amalek, so he's the beginning of all the clippers. So what's the answer to that? When he's raw and exposed, he knows, doesn't offer any argument back. There's no subtlety. It's just outright stubborn opposition. So you meet him head on. As explained earlier in the Maamer, the stubbornness of the Yid, of the Neshama. I think I mentioned this, just to mention again, one of the reasons Al Rebbe starts Tanya with the word Tanya, which means we learned in a Braisa, which actually is not a Braisa, and not at least the main Girsa in the Gemara. It's not a Braisa. Because Tanya is the same letter as the word Eson, and Eson means this hard rock, Eitan, and goes on the Etzem HaNeshama. This is the Amkshe Orev, that Chassidus it gives us the means by which to unlock the Etzem HaNeshama, the strong, invincible, Eitan is an invincible rock, invincible part of the Neshama that battles the stubbornness of Amalek. So you summon Kabbalah Soil that draws I'm a Yid, this is the way it's got to be, and you know the enemy, and boom, you can be victorious. By no means an easy task. But you know what the enemy is. It's very clear. He's not giving any argument that's not true or anything else. It doesn't apply to me. It's all true. I'm out. I don't want. Good. Kabbalah Soil. You don't want. I do. Will break myself. I know. Well, Aval, however, that's raw Amalek. That's raw Amalek. Aval yesh nagam minyan Amalek b'dakas yoser. Then there's a much more subtle Amalek. So this is lower. Encountered you on the way. In the word korcha, kar, cold. The Yid is going on the way. What way is he going? Derech HaYedu, the way. What's that? Derech Havaya, the way of Hashem. It's a pasuk. Avram went on the way of Hashem. So he's growing in his Yiddishkeit. He's on the path. Amalek is not putting a roadblock. So what's happening here? He's not saying reverse, go back. In Higamos, Chapta Zicharain Amalek in Yiddish, they threw this in here, the Manichim. Even then, Amalek, he's there. Hello, what are you doing here, Amalek? I'm the chassid, I'm on the way. I'm on the path of growth. No, he's there. And here he wants to make a rebellion, but not an open rebellion, but a subtle rebellion. What's the rebellion? Very simple. This is very subtle. He just makes him cold, don't get excited. What's the tumult? What's the excitement? And when he sees someone else excited, this is always the litmus test. If what's going on inside, if you're looking at somebody else and it bothers you and the other guy, that's your problem. So someone else getting all excited makes him nervous. What's he getting excited? That's because that's what Amalek is doing to me. He's cooling my ardor, and if I can't take it in anybody else. Now, the Rebbe adds now a whole layer here. This coldness has place. That's why it's such a subtle battle. There's room for cold. There's room for being quiet and the mind ruling the heart and not being jumping like a monkey. A Chabad chassid is a chassid governed by reason. It's in Kedusha. We have this coldness in Kedusha. It exists not just in Amalek. There's also this coldness in holiness. What's that? She's saying in Chachma the Kedusha. Chachma, in what sense is it cold? Because as he says now, Seichel has to be cold. What does it mean cold? You have to be objective. If you approach something intellectually, emotionally, you'll never get it. You've got to put emotions aside and objectively see discover the truth. That's coldness of Kedusha. Bittul, in other words. But he makes the clear distinction. We speak about coldness in holiness. On the contrary, this is bittul. What's Chachma, friends? Let's just revisit the basics. Chachma is, why is it in the Kudah? Yud, the letter Yud, Yud Kevavke, right? Yud is Chachma, He is Bin, Vav is the 6 Midas, the final He is Malchus. Why is Yud Chachma? Because Chachma is Bittul. Yud is a point. What's Chachma is Bittul? Chachma is when a person is open to discover a truth, objectively putting self aside to shatter the whole previous understanding of everything. And how does it happen? I mean, there's dramatic discoveries and there's subtle discoveries, but it's all the same thing. At that moment, first, it's bittul for 2 reasons. Number one, the idea that you've discovered, when you first discovered it, it's not developed. It's like an epiphany. It's in the Kudah. That's the first reason why Chachma is represented by the letter Yud, right? It's like being in an unfamiliar dark room. You came in there blindfolded. You have no idea. Or you came in there, it's pitch dark. And then for a second, they open the light and close it. In that second, boom, you're transfixed and everything is absorbed in a blinding flash. Then you process it after that's been done and take it all apart and develop. When a person has an epiphany, the first experience is the essence of the truth, undeveloped, seminal, Nakuda as a Nakuda. Secondly, as I just kind of said, the person himself in a state of bittul. Like the comic books have, the light bulb goes on. That moment, he's oblivious, doesn't see anything around him. He's totally absorbed to the truth. His mind has been illuminated with an emes that he and everything about him is just completely transfixed. Seeing this moment, completely bottled to the truth that has flooded his mind. And the bigger the idea, the more the eureka of the moment, the more he's oblivious, the more he's transfixed, the more he doesn't even feel or see anything that's going on around him. Are we clear? So the Nakuda of Chachma is represented by a Yud and Nakuda. In summary, the idea is seminal, and the bittul hasn't been developed, and the person is in a state of bittul there. It's only then afterwards he sits down and objectively, or rather subjectively, analyzes it. Binyan, lashon binyan. He builds all edifice with rooms and compartmentalizes the idea and divides it and applies it, etc. Can build the whole edifice, write a whole book on the discovery if it's a very deep discovery. But the first moment is cold. He's cold, the person. Cold meaning to say he's not moving. He's still.
Sorry, how does that relate to the letter Yud? How does Chachma relate to the letter Yud?
Yud is a point. It's a point. It's a point. It's
okay.
But not manifest. Yud is a point in math, or a point is almost a theoretical thing, because if you represent it on the paper with a pencil or a pen, it's already a line. The moment you represent it, you've already made a line out of it. It says some dimensions. So a point really, it's there but non-manifest. That's exactly what Chachma is. Chachma Datzilis. This is all Chachma Datzilis. Chachma Datzilis is there is a level where God has already given rise to the notion of otherness, but it's completely bottled to him. So Reishis Eishtalshalos, beginning of God creating otherness by first projecting himself in a way via a system that is other, ultimately to him, who's beyond all description and system. So what's the first expression of his being? Chachma, meaning otherness, but bottled to the truth. Namely, you are revealing yourself this way. Not lost on Chachma at all, pure bittul. So represented by so I'm saying that it's a point, it's there but not there. The person is there, but what does Chachma Datzilis say? Eibishter. So the only reality is you, but there's an entity that's acknowledging that on some subtle level. That's the point of Chachma. A point, but not spread, not claiming a legitimacy for itself, truth for itself. Again, the mashal, not the mashal. We devolve from this. When a person experiences it, when they wells up from the keich hamaskil in the nefesh, which is the ability to objectively understand the truth, no matter what the cost. That's the keich hamaskil, completely objective. When that wells up and floods the mind, the person is in a state of complete bittul to this truth. And the bigger the truth, the more radical, the greater the bittul. The more it shakes up the whole previous perception, the greater the bittul. So what is he saying here? So there is the inyan of what? Of coldness in Kedusha. A chassid, on the one hand, is cold in Kedusha. What do you mean by cold? This bittul. He's not an excitable person. On the one hand. He's a very passionate person. So Amalek exploits this. How clever is Amalek? What are you getting so excited? You're a Chabad Chassid, or what are you? What are you jumping around like a... So that's when Amalek comes along. He's derech havaya to himself. He mocks himself, his own excitement. And exploits the bittul of Kedusha. Continuing the bittul of Kedusha, the final words here. Ad she'ishor ke'even doimen. The Chachma is like leaves the person, literally translated, leaves the person like a silent stone. Silent, not so the stone doesn't cry out. It's just there, complete humility. Even doimen, it's expression. Even a silent stone. That's Chachma de Kedusha. I mean, every chassid was by Fabrengen. He didn't know no avodah. No avodah for this. The Rebbe speaks even doimen. You listen. And not only do you listen, if you come in there, I know, forget it. To come in, ready, whatever you know is in the background. It's a new mind and you bring it to what? Nobody knows. Open. That's all healthy coldness, healthy bittul. But the coldness of the opposite side, of the other side, this is Amalek. He doesn't have warmth and energy in his avodah. Very words, friends. Sha'avoida nis yashna etzlei. It got old. Implying that in the early days, each one on their level, in his youth, whatever it was, he was excited about it because it's all new and so it's exhilarating. But then it got old, same old. We have to hear the Maamer, friends, physically. We've got to hear the Maamer together. It becomes like a heavy yoke. Gets lazy, and heavy. It becomes like heavy. Not to do his avodah as he should. He's not doing his avodah. He's from a yid, he's a chassid. Can't help it. But kediboy, as it should be, that's another question. That's one level of Amalek. Never goes then even more subtle. Yesh no inyan shel Amalek bedakas oid yosen is even a more subtle level. More dakas means literally thin, fine. Even further, now this is the big kicker. He's doing his avodah. No, so what's brought it down? No, the old haribol, he's nasus gedoyler. So he feels he's nasus. He feels elevated. He feels what's the word I'm looking for? He's impressed with himself. Huh? It shouldn't be what we have to search too hard for. He says, "Luman shmi yechabed avai." It's a pasuk in Yeshaya, and it's in literally meaning Hashem. The Navi is critical. The Navi is critical, giving Musar, and there are those who say that it's for my name that God is glorified. So right there, he's the one. He's making Kiddush Hashem. Look what he's accomplished. He's b'chassid. But the h'tשכ is a little bit more subtly. For my sake, this is the person. The end of the day, his whole avodah therefore is what? For my sake. It's for me. Forget the Yechabed Avai, God's glorified. It's L'man Shmi. That's his focus. He just uses Hashem for that. He puts in brackets, ego. So that's Amalek. Amalek is we can't get you to cool you down. Okay, get excited and be the big chassid, but then so the pasuk which says in Bishalach, which you read Purim morning, this milchama is from generation to generation. This one, because this is so subtle, it's a lot pashut. It takes a long time. Because it's like you hit him once, gone. The first level of Amalek, which says, I'm not doing this, I'm out. Good, so you Kabbalah said you do it, you won the battle, finished. But the other ones, the more subtle, it's a constant battle. Dakas, and it goes higher and higher and higher. Because it's so refined, it takes a long time to mevatel it. Why? Because it's guises and guises and guises. Ador the Mashiach, till the generation of Mashiach, Kedisa betargum, like it says in the Targum. What does it mean? That the Amalek, the Milchama will go on till Mashiach comes. I'll conclude with a vort I just